And thank you so much. Welcome again to the 2013 edition of Breakfast with Bob and Paul. We're here at beautiful Huggos. We again have a presenting sponsor huddle.
Amazing.
Monster iSport, the athlete's headphone. We're here at Huggos, triathlete.com. We are live there, and our guest, two-time Ironman world champion, and he's told everybody that he's not racing this weekend, but there is day of race registration. He is signing up on Saturday, and he's going to kick everybody's butt, win his third title. Mr. Chris McCormack. Macca, how the heck are you?
Really
With
good.
our studio audience.
Look at that. Look, getting applause.
Look at that.
The Maccaettes here in force. So tell us a little bit what's going on physically, because we had you on the radio show a month ago. And
I was ready to
it was
rock.
all systems go.
Yeah, 7 weeks ago. Yeah, I knew something. I didn't know something was wrong, but I just figured training was going well. But you know, you're always making excuses for yourself as an athlete. I was training in Asia. It was very, very hot, and I found I was sleeping a lot. You know, finding it very difficult to recover. So when I finally got to the States, I thought things would be good, and did a couple of races, had some wins. So you sort of think, oh, okay, things are on track. But I got home from there, and I picked up the flu, and I knew something was up. My wife dragged me to the hospital, and we got some tests, and I had mononucleosis. So I'd had glandular fever, so I was supposed to do nothing for 8 weeks. They test your spleen, make sure you haven't done any damage,
Right.
and that can lead to chronic fatigue.
Oh,
so it was bittersweet because I was sort of happy because there were some periods there in training where I was thinking, man, I don't remember these long rides hurting so much, and a lot of the young guys were beating me up. But that ended the day. I was there's no way I can finish the 7-week block for Kona, and so I'm here watching the race for the first time in many years.
Has this been your first experience with something like this? I mean, when you talk about Ironman athletes and the training they do, especially someone like you who's been doing it for quite a long time, have you ever gone through something like this where you've been knocked out for this long?
I've never had an
systemic
injury.
disease?
Yeah, I've never had an injury, and I've never been ill to the point where when the doctor says, mate, you've got a serious issue here. You know, most viruses, you think, okay, it's a couple of weeks and I'll be fine. He's like, no, this is... I'd never heard of it. He sat down, he said, you've got Epstein-Barr virus. And I was like, oh, okay, what's that? I'd been in Asia, so I thought maybe it was a malaria.
Like a parasite.
Yeah,
type
parasite.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's a serious virus, especially for an adult. And, I don't know how you've been training through it. But, yeah, you look back over the program, and I was looking back at my diary, and I'm thinking, I'd do these long rides, and I'd come back, I'd sleep for 5 or 6 hours. But you always have an answer for yourself. It's very hot and humid. I was training with Carolyn Steffen and Dave Dello and Belinda Granger and this crew, and I thought, well, it was a tough ride today, and I am a little older, and you just sort of take that little bit of recovery.
A little older.
But that was definitely getting home from the trip that when I didn't get out of bed for 3 days, I knew something was up.
You're still here, though, so you're in Hawaii. I mean, what could be better than not
Oh,
racing and being in Hawaii?
Well, we had booked the tickets, and my wife was like, well, we're going anyway. That we had the tickets and the accommodation booked to come, so we're here.
Love it. And so if you look at the last 6 Ironmans, Aussies, Crowe has 3, you have 2, and now Pete Jacobs has 1.
Yeah.
Why? What's going on?
No, it just took us long enough to do it. And she was the first non-American to win this race. So, and then he was before McKeely came along in 2006. He was the only Australian to have the title here. And I just think, for myself and Crowe, I can speak honestly. I think we had great role models. Greg was a fantastic role model to have. He was very accessible in Australia, and I think he set the standard and the bar for us that we all wanted to ultimately come here. And I just think we had a great junior system through the years. We had some great racing, and then when we finally got mature and old enough to come here, we came. And I was here in 2002, and then Crowe came in 2007, and Pete's a lot younger than us. And I think that standard was set by Greg and McKeely, and then Craig and myself picked up the mantle, and I think we're going to have a lot more success over the next few years.
What I love is, I think it was in Noosa last winter when you guys were down there, and it was you and Pete and Craig were sitting at a table, and somebody came up and wanted a photo. An age grouper wanted a photo, and what'd they do?
Yeah, they asked Pete to take the photo of both of Craig and myself, and Crowe actually said to Pete, "See, that's what multiple titles will do for you."
One is not quite good enough.
One's
You
quite
take
good
the
enough.
photo.
Yeah. But no, it's been amazing, and I think, looking at this year, I think Pete Pete's going to be very, very difficult to unlatch again this year. He's really found his form. A lot of people talk about Pete Jacobs like he's an overnight success. He's new to the game. He's 27 Ironmans in, 26 or 27 Ironmans in. He did his first Ironman in 2003 in Australia with me, and I've known Pete a very, very long time. And I think guys like Pete, and I know when Crowe came across here, they've learnt their systems. They're not shaky when they arrive. I think my first time in Kona, I was very, very new to Ironman racing. It was my second ever Ironman. So you sort of arrive without knowing your system, so you can be a little bit more vulnerable. But I think Pete comes in now as a champion. He's moved his way up, very similar to Tim de Boom in that sense. And I think they're very, very difficult to unlatch because they're confident in the way they do things.
Yeah, one of the things we love about you is when you came and joined us at Ironman Live the one year, and I just thought, this guy is our perfect analyst, just student of the sport, you know the history of the sport, and you're involved right now in training with all these guys. We looked at last year's event, obviously, and we talked to guys this year, and you can always get a sense, and that's what I'm most excited about this week is getting to talk to all these guys. But last year, it was clear Pete Jacobs, to me, was going to win. When we interviewed him before the race, we were like, this guy's going to win. There's no question in our minds. Obviously, the fact that he was second the year before, it helps.
We picked him out on those. He was a dark horse.
So this year in talking to guys, and I don't see Frederick Van Leerd going anywhere, and I also don't see Sebastian Kinley going anywhere. How do you see? I still see the top three as probably being the same top three. It's just, is Pete going to be able to stay away from these guys? Well, fourth, but
Andy was.
Andy
would be up there.
But Sebastian also had a 4-minute problem. So
I think that they're your guys. Looking at where Eneko Lanos has had an amazing year.
He's pretty good. Yeah.
Probably the year of the season. And Melbourne, which doing 3 in a year. I've been in that position. It just takes the edge off your game when you get here to Kona, and I think he just mightn't have the punch at the back end of this race when those guys unleash. I just don't see, if anyone's going to push Pete, it's going to be Sebastian. Without Marino Voanacker here, who's going to take up the running? Because Sebastian's going to come through. That's when the game's going to happen, when Sebastian catches the pack, very much like Norman Stadley used to do. How much time are they going to give up? It's not a matter of giving it up. He's going to take it. And someone has to take up that running. And, Crowe's not. Crowe's an experienced guy. He's going to sit in the group. Pete, you're the champion. You take it, and someone's going to have to do that. I think if you give Sebi a lead, he's a very, very difficult man to run down. But when I say that, I still think Sebi's an inexperienced Ironman racer. He's better at that 70.3 distance, and I still think that could be a vulnerability for him. Pete Jacobs has got it right in October, better than anyone over the last 2 years. He's done it again. If you looked at his Sunshine Coast 70.3 result, he destroyed Clayton Fattel.
6-7 minutes faster on the run.
And jogging. Looked like he did here last year in Kona. And he's been saying all year, I don't care what happens. I don't care what happens until October. And that's very much like Peter Reid, Tim de Boom, these sort of guys.
Sounds like Dave Scott a little bit.
Dave Scott, and he is in good form. I think, Freddie Van Leerd's one guy I'd love to see do really, really well. He's had a great early season, been quiet since, and I think he's going to be right up there. But, geez, it's going to be hard to unleash Pete. You've got the fastest marathoner in the world the last 2 years. He's run sub 2:43s both times. No one else in the field's doing that.
Nope.
So you better not get off the bike with him, and I just don't see how they're going to get rid of him on this bike. And
and he learned from last year. He liked being at the front of the bike. Yeah. Right. He didn't feel like he didn't have. He felt if you're back a little bit, it's a mistake because Crowe got away.
Yes.
He says Crowe should not have gotten away from me 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that basically the race was over. So last year he said, when I'm at the front, I don't have to worry about the drafting or the rest of it. I can just keep my head down and go.
And it's that new pass the entire group rule that makes things being tactical now is very, very difficult to do. So when you make the pass on a rider, you can no longer slip into their position. You have to pass the entire group, which is a very, very difficult rule. So when you stay up near the front, you stay out of trouble. The guys at the back can't move as much. If they're going to make a pass, they're going to have to pass 150, 200 metre pass, which is a difficult pass to do. So a lot of people hold their position now. And I was coming back last year in the car. I was following Pete's group, and he was third strongest on road. If you take Keenlay and Voanacker out of it, Pete was the strongest. He came around all those guys in that group. He did the lion's share of the work from Scenic Lookout home. And then I've never seen a guy win the race so easy in my entire life of watching this event. he was waving at people, running up the hill, talking to his friends. It was just, it was embarrassing.
You were too in 2002, I think it was.
Yeah, but that was 5 miles in, Bob, not with 2 miles to go.
That's before you started walking.
Yeah, that's before I was walking, exactly.
So you talk about the bike and you talk about Kinley. Is there anybody who maybe can give this guy some company? Potts, Starkowitz, any of the guys who are known to be strong riders, maybe not the best runners, but anybody who can get up there and give him some company on the ride?
Tolikson?
Yeah. I think Starkowitz can, but I think he's new to Kona.
Yeah.
Very much like that Graves that came here a few years ago. I think when Kona's a different beast, that heat really starts to creep up on you past halfway, and I just think where Sebi could change the games is the guys who come out of the water behind that front group, and he could bring a Bart Arnotts and Ronnie. We talk about these guys every year. They need to really stay close to Sebastian to help limit that losses to the front group. And I watched an interesting study that Aaron Hirsch did on the drafting not the drafting, but the benefits that riding in that front group does. They did a test with the watt meters, and they're saying that the front group's 4.5 minutes savings by being in it, even at the 12-metre rule, over 180 kilometres. So it's a big saving on the legs. So those guys know that if they're not in that front group, the guys up front are doing a lot easier, and that pays dividends on the marathons. So.
Yeah, it was one guy I looked at, not so much to win, but somebody who I think could have an impact here. I was just scrolling through and I saw that Bart Arnott's guy.
Yeah.
And I saw him 11th last year, and he swam an hour. And he rode 4:45, so he's by himself the whole day.
Yeah.
And he still ran 2:47, which was faster than Pete ran.
Yeah.
And then I saw Nice, and he's second to Frederick, and ran 2:37 off the bike.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's improved. We all see guys every year who are way back and they run their way up in the top 5 or top 10, but they're not going to win the race.
Yes.
Is that a guy down the line? Because he seems like he's improving in the other sides.
And he's a duathlon world champion.
Yeah.
And I trained most of last year with Bart in Sedona.
You?
Yeah, very, very nice guy, strong guy. And he's new to this game, very, very new to this sort of racing. So last year he was coming in to test the waters, is what he said.
Yeah.
And he was going to have a real assault this year. I think, his swim's still a little bit vulnerable, but he is very, very confident on land. He's happy to ride all day on his own, and he believes that he's the best marathon runner in this field. And that's a big thing about this race. If you believe, you can do damage here. And he said he was going to go to Nice and run sub 240. Everybody laughed, and he posted a 237.
Yeah.
So he's one guy I do think can put himself in that top 10 this year. Yeah, definitely. You may be looking at him a few years down the track to be competitive. If you remember, Marino was a poor swimmer, Marino Bowenhacker. He was a duathlete that improved that and ultimately became a player here. So Bart's a guy to keep on the radar in the future.
So talk a little bit about the swim. It's the one discipline that we always dismiss. The swim in Kona's a bath, right? You know what I mean? Who cares? But you come from an ITU background where it's much more important, but you know that in Kona, the swim is important. You talk to guys like Mark Allen, who were great swimmers, came out of the water with they swam all the time.
Yes.
They never let go of their swimming. Why is the swim important?
Well, the swim game's changing. These ITU guys are coming across. You've got Potsy has really changed it, but now with Clayton Fattel here, and he's his first time in Kona, this guy swims like a fish. And the disadvantage for the guys now is a lot of those the good guys that can bike and run, the Pete Jacobs, the Luke McKenzies, these sort of athletes can swim in that front pack. So it's, if you're a little bit off, if you're at Bart Arnotts, who could, maybe in the old day racing, could actually catch up and make an impact. He's very much like a Jürgen Zach or a Stadler.
Right.
Those days are becoming very, very difficult. Unless you have the kind of horsepower that Sebastian Kienle has, you're never going to get across. You just need to look at those Ironmans around the world. You're seeing guys like Ronnie Schiltnick and Jordan Rapp that are fantastic Ironman athletes, but here they get left alone for so long because they just can't make the group and they can't get across, and it just taxes you at the back end. So the swim is so important. You're not going to win it, as they say, in the swim, but nowadays you're definitely going to lose the race if you're not close.
What's interesting is the competitive side here. We talk all about the heat and the wind, but I think how many times do you go to a race where there's more than 2 or 3 guys who you have to worry about? Yeah. Here you got to worry about 15.
Yeah.
And how does that play out with all the fact that everybody has their A game coming to this race?
And you've heard the horror stories of the place. Everyone has their A game, and there's a lot of guys that come here, you've prepared, but everyone's heard the horror stories of Kona. So you come in with a little bit apprehensive. So there's about 10 or 15 guys that you run your finger down the list and say, well, if I'm off that much, two of these guys are going to pass me. So it's such a wide open event. You always have those key guys that you think, okay, Pete's going to win, or Sebastian can win it, or Crowe can win it again. But then you have that list of guys, 5 or 6 of them that, well,
the right thing happens.
If the conditions are hard, if the wind's up, he could do something very, very dangerous. And there's one guy I see this year, if conditions are very, very tough, that's going to be close. I don't know if he can win it, but he could. Is Faris Al Sultan again?
And he was 5th last year.
He was 5th last year. It was. If it's very, very windy, he's been strong again this year. He's one of those guys that loves the tough conditions, and they're one of those guys I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They can shape a race, and I love Kona. Even when you're not racing, I'm usually looking at these guys. Okay, what's going to happen in reflection to me? But when you sit back and you get to enjoy the race from the perspective of the sideline, and you start trying to work out who's going to win it. It's such a difficult thing to do because anything can happen here in Kona.
I look at you, and I think if you took that year, decide I'm going to try and make the Olympic team, right? Basically changed everything, rejuvenated yourself.
Yes.
If you had stayed Ironman, and you had gotten sick, my feeling is you might have said, you know what, it's sort of time to hang it up. That by going back to short distance and sort of getting the love back and not having to go for 6-7 hour bike rides for a long period of time has gotten you to the point that at 40 years old, you're thinking, you know what, I can still do this for a number of years.
Yeah, well, 100%. And I got to know a lot of the athletes that are going to come. And I think I've always been inspired by the sport. It's what I came to triathlon because I love the sport. And I think once you're in it at the high level and you're the guy on the island and you're the guy racing Ironman, you know everyone. I think going back to the ITU, I got to see the talent that's coming and meet these 22, 23-year-old kids that I had no idea who they were. And you think, man, the next wave of guys is going to entertain me for the rest of my life because I'll be able to sit back and you watch Javier Gomez and the Brownlees and these type of boys who are going to really shape, the next 10 or 15 years of this sport. It's incredible stuff. And I know my wife was very happy that I had a softer year after 2010 because that was a very engulfing year for the family. I took a lot of time away. So, I love the sport, Bob. I think you guys know that. I sit there, I study it, I follow it, I go to the results page every single week, and that's never changed for me. It used to be magazines, now it's the internet. I find it fascinating, and I will always be coming back here. And a lot of those younger guys that I met on the ITU circuit, Javier recently contacted me about, I'm thinking of maybe doing. I'm like, hey, man, got plenty of time, boys. A lot of them think that, I remember when Dave Scott came back to Kona at 40, got second to Greg Welsh. I'm 40. I remember at the time thinking, stupid old guy. But
what is he thinking? He should be in a rocking chair. What's he doing?
But now you're 40, you think, well, you're quite active. I'm physically capable of being competitive here. So I'm telling a lot of the younger guys, you don't need to rush to Ironman racing. Stay competitive in the short stuff. You've got that 70.3 circuit now you can be competitive on, and that world title means a lot.
It does now,
so pick that up, take a few of those, and then come across to Kona with an A game out of the blocks. And I think Craig Alexander, for me, is the new wave of guy who did that perfectly. Used that 70.3 circuit to mould himself.
70.3, moved his way up.
That's the way to do it.
What's interesting to me about you is you're so social about this. I've never seen a guy who has gone from training group to training group or inviting different people to train, and there's not a lot of guys like that. What is it about the social aspect that that is part of your recipe for success?
I think I love the sport. I've always been social in triathlon because that's what brought me here in the first place. And even though you're a professional, you have your issues, and with guys, I think when you're racing, in anything, when you're racing and you're racing for a single spot, there's some people you get on with, there's some people you don't. But for me, I've always been a social trainer. I was that when I was a junior, and I enjoy the travel and enjoy the hanging out with the people who do the sport. So I know this year I spent a lot of time with young David Dello and Caroline in Thailand, and Belinda and Juzzy, who are Belinda Granger and Justin Granger, two very, very social beings in their own right.
Big time.
And just going out on rides and chatting away and realising that these people have the same fears and ambitions as you do. I get motivated by that. And I know, I did a lot of long riding with Caroline and talking to her about her race last year, what she's expecting to do this year. And when they open up, you see the same fears that you had, and you try and help them with those as much as you can. Ultimately, on the day, they're going to have to deliver. But I find that very, very motivating, and I enjoy that about the sport. And that's what I used to read about in the magazines, thinking, mate, this is all I want to do. This is my life. I don't watch football. I watch triathlon, and I follow boxing. They're my sports. I just love it.
Who has been the most entertaining? You are now one of the elder statesmen.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you that.
No, I am. I know that.
But you've spanned a few generations of athletes. I mean, and you started back in the Welchie days, and you've come all the way across now to, like you just talked about, the young ITU guys who are up and coming. Who has been like memorable in terms of entertainment? Like we always think of Welchie and Jurgen and people like that.
For me, I found that Welshie, Jurgen, Mark Allen era very, very entertaining. I just think they all had such great personalities. They were so different in many ways. You had Paulie Kuru with his heart rate monitor, very, very serious. And I think I was young, so I was really looking up to these guys. I found them, still to this day, I tell Jurgen, you're still my idol, mate. I only saw him a couple of weeks ago. And
he's smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
He's smoking cigarettes.
I couldn't believe it. I said, you were my idol. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what are you doing?
It
keeps
you socializing.
Yeah, it keeps you skinny. I was like, oh, okay. But that era was fantastic. But I really, at the moment, if I'm looking at triathlon racing, the Brownlees and Javier Gomez are entertaining guys.
They are.
Just what they're doing is amazing, and you just shake your head. There's never been a period in my life, even when I was young and I used to watch Mark Allen and these guys, I thought, I can do that. I think I can do that. But I watch these guys, and there is,
no way.
I cannot do that. That is just mind-blowing how fast they are.
I can't play in that sandbox anymore.
I cannot play. They are way too good.
What I loved when you were telling me during the racing that Alistair's actually yelling at guys.
Yeah.
Like take a pull. Jan Frodeno, you gold medalist, take a pull or get out of here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. And he, what amazes me about that guy, and I've been running with the runners, and all these runners that I run with at home are, looking at Alistair's run splits off the bike at 29.06.
Yeah.
Oh, the run.
Those courses are short.
You triathletes, you need to learn to measure a course, it's short. And then he goes and runs 28.30 on the track, and I'm like, I tweeted out, let me guess, guys, the track's short. It's like, and you start running with these guys now. They're okay. They admit that he's a good runner.
Right.
I'm like, mate, the guy leads out of the swim. Like, okay, you're admitting he's a good runner. The guy leads out of the swim, and they're like, okay, he swims. I said, now what's the bike ride? And then you can really appreciate just how diverse an athlete those guys really are. They're aggressive on the bike. They're solid bike riders. They're swimming, 16-minute, 1,500-metre swims, and they're 28.5-minute, 10-kilometre runners. And they cross the line like those marathon runners do. Like, I had a good race out there. They're not even puffed. There's no collapsing on the ground. You're like, man, these guys.
The drama?
They're impressive.
They are really impressive. Hey, Macca, thank you so much for always being a class act, spending time with us, and hopefully we'll have a Mai Tai or something on race day, right?
100%. It's been a long time since I've done that on race day.
Two-time Ironman world champion Chris McCormack has been our guest. How about a round of applause from our studio audience? Nice. We again are brought to you by Monster Ice Sport, the athlete's headphones. We're at Huggos. We are live on triathlete.com. Tell your buddies. Poncho Man, take us out.
On the island, we do it all in style. Come out to the ocean when we're to the leeward side. 'Cause on the island, we do it all in style. From the mountain to the ocean, when we're to the leeward side. Breakfast with Bob and Paul.
Thank you, Poncho Man.